You know, now this ain't a deal that works. I always got it tied on, but it's a conditional thing. Like, you know, I just got good conditions for it today. It's in a giant. That's the way every one of them's bit it though. Takes you breath. It's awesome. Now that's the first skinnier one I've caught. It's so fun. But they eat it. But I still believe it just makes them mad. I mean, I think that's the big deal when they're spawning is that clacker, tack, tack, tack. I think that's a defensive bite. I don't think it's an offensive bite. I don't think that fish is necessarily came up and got it because it was hungry. I think it was mad, you know. All right, so now, it, you know, it bent my blade a little bit. So you can see that where the paint's gone, that's where that blade's been hitting the head. So I'll bend it back down where it just barely clacks. So I want it to spin pretty free because when I put it in the water will force it on down on the head and, you know, really make it clack. You'll hear it now. And then if you don't think it's clack, like I don't think it's not quite loud enough, I just bend it a little more until because I want it clucking, you know, talk, 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 talk. Yeah, now. And you see the conditions we got. We got a lot of wind, it's dark, cloudy. I want them to hear that thing, you know. You know, a fish has heightened senses anyway, but I want to help him out. A buzzbait in general, I guess, is kind of a niche bait, you know? But I find that the clacker is more of a niche of a niche, you know what I mean? Because I probably throw it less than I do a regular one, but there are just certain situations where nothing beats it. So, you know, we're dealing with bad weather today, a lot of wind, overcast, but also these fish are in that spawning mood. And I just find that when they're in that spawning mood, those females will attack. I have not caught a fish today that's not a female. They will attack that thing. They just don't like it around. Like there are just certain lures that make that female more aggressive, and this is one of them. And very few male fish have even bit me today. But with that being said, right after the spawn, I don't throw it as much. It'll be back hot weather, heavy cover. It's just more situational than a regular buzzbait. You know, realistically, once the water temperature gets 55 or more, I always have a buzzbait tied on, but it won't always be a clacker. Like more times than not, it's just a traditional buzzbait, and it's not clacking. But there are certain times when nothing beats a clacker, and one of them is spawn. You know, right as those fish come out, and once they've been out there on the bed, and again, it targets quality fish. Like I'm not out here today getting a bunch of bites, but when I get one, it's a quality bite. You know, it's the kind you're looking for. Oh, that's the other thing. On a traditional buzzbait, I throw 20 fluoro because you're getting what I call an offensive strike, and that fish will come up there and just suck the bait, and you know, I like having a little bit of stretch for that fish to eat the bait. But with the clacker, it's a straight braid deal 100% of the time because again, you get more defensive strikes, and a lot of times I want to be able to hook that fish outside the mouth. They don't necessarily always eat it. A lot of times they just hit at it. And with that low stretch braid, I feel like I get a better chance of hooking that fish anywhere because they're attacking it, you know, to kill it. They're not necessarily biting it to eat it. So this is definitely a braid deal. And then I find more times than not when I'm throwing it, typically it's heavy cover. You know, I'm fishing over a lot of grass. And again, I feel like I'm targeting bigger fish. This is gonna sound weird. I really prefer to pull this bait against the wind. I can't explain that. Like most of the time, you know, you wanna pull something with the wind, make it look natural, but that's not really the deal with this. It seems like it forces more water when you're pulling into the waves, and I feel like I get bit better, you know. But see, another thing, if you notice, when I pull that thing with the waves, a lot of times you don't get it'll go under sometimes. It'll go in the wave as it's riding with them, but when you pull it against it, it seems like it stays better on top. right here is really, I've not fished right in here, but this is the right stuff, you know. A lot of hard cover and high spots for those fish to spawn. I figured out that anywhere you see those trees are high spots. But the bites, I've not had a bite to come off the tree. They just come around them. So I'm basically just using those targets because I know those are where the high spots are. And I'm just fishing around in those areas. It's just helping me, you know, because this is all new water to me. I don't know anything about any of this, but I figured out, you know, pretty quick that the high spots were the deal, and anywhere those trees are ridges. And then in between them are ditches. And I've not caught anything out of the drain. All the fish have been up on the, you know, up on the high spot. And you know, I'll tell you another thing that I do on a buzzbait, I never throw a skirt. 100% of the time, regardless if I'm throwing a traditional or a clacker, it's always, I always use a gurgle toad as my trailer. I feel like having that meat on the back of that bait catches more fish. And if I want to reel it faster, I just go to the small one. You know, they come in two sizes, a baby gurgle toad and then a regular. And it just depends. If I want to reel the bait faster, I use the small one. I want to reel it slower, I use the big one. You know, a lot of times in clear water, the whole deal of getting that fish to react to it is him not getting a good look at it. But in dirty water, you know, that's not as big a factor. And so I reel it slower. But, you know, typically they'll tell you. So if you throw it out there and you know, you miss one or two, you got to do one of two things. Either you are not reeling the bait fast enough or you got the wrong color. And it's easy with that frog. You just pop one gurgle toad off and pop another one on, you know? And if you miss again, you just speed to retrieve. More times than not, when they're missing a buzzbait, means you're not reeling it fast enough. It's not, oh, I'm reeling it too fast, they're not getting it. It's you're not reeling it fast, they're getting too good a look at it. And at the last minute, they're not committing.